Hello, and welcome to Grade.com Talks With. Today, we're talking with Josh Kramer, Executive Vice President at National Center for Families Learning, an organization that works to eradicate poverty through education solutions for families. And if you're new to our podcast, please press subscribe button either on YouTube or your podcast app, because today we're going to learn about an organization that has provided tools for the development of over 4.5 million children and families across the United States. Hi, Josh. Welcome to Grade.com Talks With. We're excited to have you here.
Hey, Kareem. Thanks for having us. We're excited to share the good word about family learning.
Wonderful. Could you please describe your organization for someone who is not familiar with your work?
Absolutely. So the National Center for Families Learning, or just simply Ncfl, is a 31-year-old organization based out of Louisville, Kentucky. And we started our work on it with a very simple idea in mind that actually is very important. And that is that in order to affect student achievement, to improve academic achievement and attendance, we have to look at the education rate of both the parent, typically a mother for a low-income family, and the child, and bring the adult and child together to learn. Now, that might sound like a simple idea, as I started out with, but the American education system typically looks at family engagement as kind of an add-on. But we know, based on our experience and research, that working through the whole family to provide educational solutions is a much more effective strategy. And I think that bringing us to this moment in time, Kareem, obviously we're involved in a worldwide pandemic. Many people have been home, learning in their homes in various different ways. And we all now know that the family unit is the key vehicle with which education is delivered. And so Ncfl has been in this space for 31 years promoting that idea. We do work in 39 different states in America, and we host digital communities around family learning, like Wonderopolis.org, that actually bring about 16 million users into our network every single year.
Coming from my own experience, whenever I had the schoolwork and when I came home and I asked my parents, my dad wasn't much informed about the topics that I was learning, but having someone like my mother who was very informed, who was very familiar with the school curriculum, and she helped me to do that, was very important. And the fact that your organization is doing the same for many children across United States is incredible. How big of an issue of adult literacy is in United States?
So, adult illiteracy or low literacy levels is a big impediment to both economic success and our success as a country. We know that for low-income families, we're typically looking at maybe a third or fourth grade reading level, which is just barely what it takes to survive in our country, let alone get a job or participate in the economy. And so it's a huge problem. When you do root cause analysis and think about, what is really holding us back, if adults aren't able to fully participate in society, then it's very difficult to parent, to work, and to move our country forward. So I think that for us at Ncfl, this is the fundamental problem in our country, is making sure that we can all participate and be at the table, and making sure that we all have a fair chance to participate. So for us, it's a pretty big issue, Kareem, and that's why we are so focused on literacy. Our president and founder, Sharon Darling, was actually an adult education teacher. This is where she first discovered the importance of family literacy. And we know now through several rounds of research that the maternal education level is actually the #1 indicator of student academic success, okay? So for low-income families, maternal education rates are the #1 indicator of student academic success. And that's important to our theory of change and why we look at both the adult and the child.
Mm-hmm. So you believe that literacy is an issue, adult illiteracy is an issue, and you try to approach it in the most efficient way through your research that has shown that motherhood, the fact that the children with their mom's literacy being high, they are more likely to succeed, and that fact is very eye-opening and revealing. How do you support the mothers? How do you support the parents? What kind of tools do you provide them?
Sure. So NCFL really pioneered the development of something we call family literacy, all right? And so this is a 4-component program that includes adult literacy courses for that mother. There can be fathers involved, but typically we're looking at a female in the United States who's the head of household for low-income families. So it involves adult literacy, it involves parent education. That's where parents have the opportunity to learn about the most up-to-date practices in parenting and how to support their child academically. Then we have the child's education. That's the 3rd component. That's just the good literacy that is being taught, hopefully, in a school system, whether it be public or private or some other environment. And then the 4th component is called PAC time, or parent and child together time. And so when we do all 4 of those things together, research shows that we can have a very large impact, positive impact on student academic achievement and attendance. And so for NCFL, we have a 4-component model called family literacy that we've now implemented for 31 years. It's actually codified in the U.S. There's a federal definition in the U.S. Department of Education and Labor. So you know, it's something that we definitely founded and wrote, and that we do all over the country. We also engage. So if somebody doesn't have the deep literacy issues or needs that we're talking about, we have other models that are a little bit less intensive, that are just good family engagement, because we know that family engagement and education can make a difference. So if we don't have fundamental literacy issues, we might have a lighter touch strategy where we're basically just helping a school or community organization understand how to work with parents in an equitable way.
Mm-hmm. So you were the pioneers in developing program that's involved around 4 steps, 4 different modules that combined provide a great resource for families and children. You indicated at the 4th one that it's family and children learning together. Can you please tell us the curriculum of that and how does that work?
Sure. So parent and child together time, or something we call PAC time, P-A-C-T, is a very, again, it sounds like a very simple idea, but it's actually the secret sauce to our entire model, right? So PAC time links curriculum in the adult education course and the parent time course with curriculum the child is learning in school. And then we create joint moments of learning where essentially we debrief what we've learned in our classroom together, right? What dad or mom tells the child, this is what I learned today. We're focusing on this particular skill set. The child has learned something that's related, you know, on their developmental level. And then they come together and potentially do an activity where they actually are demonstrating the learning that they're talking about. So let me give you a more concrete example. So one of the things that happens when you talk about a curriculum, NCFL supports the implementation of what we call family service learning, okay? So this is the idea of learning through service, through project-based learning together. And so in an adult education class, you might be learning about issues in your community. I mean, maybe there's a neighborhood that's not lit very well, and so it seems unsafe, or maybe there's a park that needs to be cleaned up, right? So the adult is learning about what could we do to address that. The child at their developmental level is also learning about some kind of social problem in their community and what they can do to be a part of solving that. And then they come together potentially around the action component of service learning. So this is going out to actually do the neighborhood cleanup or the community safety walk, and they do that together as a family. And so therefore they're demonstrating an ethos of service. You know, the young person is seeing mom or dad participate in this service. They're learning together about a problem, and they're gaining literacy skills through this embedded process. So it's a very strong educational effort that has a high impact. The other thing that it does, Kareem, is it builds on social emotional relationships. And so it's not just about what is the topic, how do we solve this issue in our community, and then actually doing it, but it's also about the feeling of being connected to your parent and your education system in a different way. It actually really reinforces the learning. And we know through research that if we can reinforce learning through social emotional connections, like those that we build during parent and child together time, that things will stick. You're not going to forget that experience. You're not going to forget that time because it makes an impact in your brain in a different way.
I like the fact that children see that their families, their parents are not indifferent. They come together. There's a sense of community. There is a sense of learning together, challenging and growing together. And seeing that both, I believe it's a great experience both for parents as well as for children, seeing that this person, my parent is involved, they want me to succeed, and I'm seeing that they're learning as well, which is giving me encouragement to do better. So that's a
You
great
got it. You got it.
atmosphere to provide.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think in at least the United States, one of the things that we've done is we've actually siloed adult education and child education. We put them in two different places. And so in many ways, the idea of just bringing those two pieces together so that systems actually work for families instead of families having to navigate systems, we're going to have a better impact. And that's the argument we've been making for 3 decades.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned about the impact. Could you please share with us some numbers or some details of if when the families and children go through the programs, what the life looks like for them after they've gone through educational program within your organization?
Absolutely. So Ncfl has done many different evaluations over time. We've had external evaluators tell us what's working, what's not working, and we've consistently improved our program based on those findings. Actually, one of our largest funders is Toyota, and one of the principles that they teach is Kaizen, or continuous improvement. And so Ncfl has always embraced the Kaizen idea. And so we have lots of evidence, Kareem, that this works. And I guess I could draw your attention to a fairly recent study that we concluded in 2018, which was a study of our program in Detroit over 5 years. And in that study of family literacy in Detroit with what we call English language learners here in the United States, or people who do not speak English as their first language, we saw statistically significant gains in academic achievement versus students who were not in the family literacy program, but that were similar. And we also saw statistically significant gains in attendance, which is a very important indicator of family literacy, because attendance is both an adult behavior, and then as we get older, it's also a child behavior. So it's actually a 2-generation measure of success. So the fact that we saw those most recently, that kind of an impact was a big deal. Beyond attendance and achievement, attendance and achievement, we have also seen a positive impact on job skill development. So we know from some studies recently that when we do family learning, when families learn together, that we're also gaining what we call employability skills that help adults get a job or get a better job. Other domains that we see impact in, one is called social capital, or basically the connectedness between families. This is very important in the United States to how you get a job, how you identify lower prices for different services, and all those things are basically connectedness. Who are you connected to, and how can they help you move forward or give you important information? And so we've seen social capital be developed through our family learning programs. So there are a lot of positive impacts around overall family well-being. What we've studied the most is academic achievement and attendance, but we do also know for adults that we can see job readiness, we can see adults getting better jobs, and we can also look at social capital or social connectedness as positive evidence of our programming.
Mm. Your insights are very interesting. The fact that you were able to track both for children attendance and achievement, as well as the job skills for adults and parents, which at the end of the day, all of them go probably one stair up in the social ladder, which comes to your mission of eradicating poverty and through the educational solutions. And that's very eye-opening and very great to hear.
Well, thank you.
How do you see the issue of adult literacy improving or changing in the United States in the upcoming 10 to 15 years?
Well, that's a big question because, as you know, over the last year, everything we knew has changed, right? So when we entered a pandemic 1 year ago, we were both, it was terrible for so many reasons, especially for low-income families in the United States. Any disparities that we had just got bigger, right? So families who were already disadvantaged, who were suffering from institutional racism, now became in an even more difficult position. And so I think that at NCFL as well as everywhere, we've had to rethink, what does this mean, coming out of a pandemic when we've had the kind of learning loss that we have. And of course, what we believe is that it's time to double down more than ever on family learning and family-based education, because parents are in the eye of the storm. And so as we come out of this pandemic, literacy, it becomes even more important, because a lot of the families that we work with, lower income families in the United States, where their jobs were are either being automated, or they've lost their job, or in some cases, on the other side of this, they're an essential worker, and so they can't be with their children during this time when a lot of kids are at home. So there's a whole lot going on, Kareem. And I think when we look 10 to 15 years out, right now, I think we're looking at the next year or two. And I think what we're going to do is double down on the importance of families in education. And we're going to look at technology differently. So now I'm going to tell you about one of our more exciting things that we've been working on that came out of our pandemic thinking, actually. So obviously, everybody's become much more accustomed to this digital interaction. But this is really pretty difficult to teach and learn through, because we all get tired, when we're sitting here face to face around this computer. And so NCFL looked into immersive education. So we actually bought some virtual reality headsets, and the price point has come down quite a bit. These used to be thousands of dollars, and now today you can get a lower end headset for about $300, which is less than the price of like a cell phone or a computer. So the price point came down. So we asked ourselves, how can we use virtual reality and augmented reality to reinforce education so that we don't have to be together, but we can still have immersive educational experiences? And so we have a pilot right now with a large school system in the United States called Broward County Public Schools in Florida, where we have 9 families engaged in an immersive family learning environment. So we're taking what we learned over the last 31 years in face-to-face programming, and we're putting it into virtual reality, where we know that technology can support deeper learning. We know if you look up the impacts of virtual reality, we can build empathy through virtual reality. When you learn in VR, things stick. And so we have low-income families now jumping to the front of the line and becoming early adopters of immersive education in the United States. So I would say 10 to 15 years from now, you're going to see family learning happening in both face-to-face and virtual reality locations, where I can literally go, if I wanted to show you the Grand Canyon, you and I could put on a headset and travel there together while not ever leaving our house, and have a pretty immersive experience. So I think that the future of education in America is going to involve family learning, NCFL style, and virtual and augmented reality, as well as artificial intelligence and other exponential technologies that are now becoming a reality. I mean, I just read yesterday, there is an artificially intelligent hip hop artist that released a single. Okay, so this is machine learning, and this person is going to release an entire album that they're writing and performing without human intervention. So the future is here, and NCFL has definitely embraced that, and we think that the future of family learning will include lots of pieces of what we already do, but it will now include these exponential educational technologies as well.
Technology has indeed disrupted many industries and many spheres of life across all over the world, and seeing that you are adapting to the change, and you are building new tools to continue supporting the families is great. And hopefully you mentioned that the job skills that will be changing, and some of the works of the current low-income families, the skills that they have will not be applicable. However, there is your organization who hopefully will be able to provide as many educational programs, as many skill programs for low-income families to adjust and upgrade their skills and be demandable in 21st century. How do you, if someone would like to support your organization, how can they do that?
Sure. So I think the easiest way to start is go to our website, which is www.familieslearning.org. And obviously, if you have money, we are a nonprofit organization. You are more than welcome to make a contribution. The money that comes to our organization, the vast majority, over 90% of that money, goes to working directly with families and communities. And so that's one thing, if you have money. If you do not have the ability to contribute, there are volunteer opportunities. And at this point, since we are all virtual for the time being, people can volunteer from all over the country. There would be, we write grants, we do all sorts of things that people could apply their intelligence to the work that we do. So time, your time or your resources would be fantastic. You might also know about partners. You might hear this conversation say, hey, there's this organization over here. We work with a group in Brazil called Recode, and they're helping us think about entrepreneurship and how our families can become better entrepreneurs during this pandemic. And so we would work with people from all over the world if there was something that made sense. So you might know of somebody or another organization that, hey, this is something that they could bring to the table. So we would invite, funding is number one. We always need money to support families. Number two, volunteerism. And number three, connections and partnerships. That's what we would be looking for.
Wonderful. All the social links to your social presence as well as your website will be provided in the link in the description. And thank you so much, Josh, for being here and telling us more about National Center for Families Learning.
Yeah, Kareem, you've created a great environment here. This is a great show. I hadn't heard of this before, but now I'm definitely going to dial in. You're just a really positive guy. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And if you liked our conversation, please press a like and share button, because this will show the YouTube algorithm as well as the podcast algorithm that this conversation is important and we need more awareness and support for family learning. Thank you and see you on the next episode.